Starting a new school mid-year felt like stepping into a story that had already been written without me. Everyone had their groups, their inside jokes, their places where they belonged. I drifted through the halls feeling like a ghost, invisible unless someone accidentally bumped into me. Most teachers barely noticed me, and honestly, I didn't blame them. I didn't shine in any subject, didn't stand out. I was just there. It was during one of my first PE classes that I met Mr. Taylor. He wasn't like the other teachers who seemed tired or indifferent. He had this way of talking to students like he actually cared what they had to say. During stretches or drills, he'd call out little jokes, teasing in a way that made even the shy kids laugh. I stayed quiet, mostly in the back, trying not to be noticed, but he noticed anyway. One afternoon, after I'd stumbled trying to do a simple jump rope exercise, he walked over, not to scold or sigh, but to smile and offer a tip. It wasn't just what he said, it was how he said it, like I wasn't a burden but someone worth encouraging. That tiny moment planted a seed in me. For the first time since transferring, I felt like maybe I wasn't invisible after all. Over the next few weeks, I caught myself looking forward to PE, not because I liked sports, I didn't, but because it was the one class where I didn't feel like I was drowning. Mr. Taylor would give me a nod when I did something right, or a small smile when he caught me hesitating. Those gestures, so small and maybe even meaningless to him, started meaning everything to me. At lunch, I'd replay little moments in my head. The way he'd clapped when I finally nailed a volleyball serve. The way he remembered my name without checking the attendance sheet. No one else in the school knew how much that mattered to me, how much it kept me afloat on days when loneliness felt like it was pulling me under. I never talked about it to anyone. It felt private, a fragile little spark inside me that I didn't want exposed to mockery or misunderstanding. I told myself it was just admiration, just gratitude. After all, teachers were supposed to care about students, right? This was normal. I convinced myself of that every day, even as the feelings kept growing in ways I didn't understand. The more he smiled at me, the more I smiled back. The more he encouraged me, the more I wanted to impress him. He wasn't just a teacher anymore, he was becoming the highlight of my days. And slowly, without even realizing it, I started to depend on those brief interactions, needing them more than I should have, looking forward to them more than I dared admit. April 28th, 8:14 a.m., Fahad Ali Baloch. What started as simple admiration quickly turned into something deeper without me realizing it. Every day, I found my eyes searching for him the moment I stepped onto the field. It wasn't just about getting better at sports anymore. It was about feeling seen, feeling important, even if just for a second. I told myself it was harmless, just a silly schoolgirl crush that would fade with time. But every little moment between us fed it. He would offer a thumbs up across the gym after a good effort or crack a small joke that made me feel like I was the only one he was talking to. I lived for those tiny acknowledgments. I began putting more effort into PE than any other class, not because I suddenly loved sports, but because his approval felt like air I needed to breathe. There were times when he'd stop to explain something to me, and I would hang on to every word, barely hearing anything else around me. I noticed things I shouldn't have, how his eyes crinkled when he laughed, how patient he was even when others gave up. I started imagining conversations that hadn't happened, moments that weren't real. It terrified me how easily my mind slipped into daydreams where maybe, somehow, he saw me differently too. The more time passed, the more confused I became. I knew there was a line between students and teachers, a line I had no right to cross. But emotions don't follow rules, and mine were running wild without my permission. I hated myself for feeling this way, but I couldn't stop. Every time he smiled at me, every time he said my name with that warmth in his voice, it added fuel to a fire I couldn't control. I started second-guessing everything. Was that smile just polite, or was there something more? When he helped adjust my posture during exercises, was it just part of his job, or did he linger a moment longer than necessary? I didn't dare tell anyone what I was thinking. It sounded crazy even to me. But alone at night, those thoughts circled endlessly, and the more I tried to ignore them, the stronger they grew. What scared me most was how much I wanted those feelings to be real. I wasn't just craving attention anymore. I was longing for something deeper, something tender and impossible. I crafted whole scenarios in my mind where he might confess he felt it too, where the impossible somehow became possible. I knew it was foolish, but the hope was addictive. I buried the feelings as best as I could, pretending nothing had changed. But inside, everything had. What once was simple admiration had turned into a trembling, overwhelming wish for something I couldn't even name out loud. And no matter how much I told myself to stop, I couldn't help wondering, what if? The day that changed everything started like any other. I wasn't prepared for how quickly everything would shift. It was after a school event when most of the students had already gone home. I stayed behind, helping clean up equipment, wanting to stretch out the time a little longer without admitting why. He thanked me for staying, his voice casual, easy. I tried to play it cool, but inside, my heart raced with every word he spoke. We talked about simple things at first, how crazy the day had been, how tired everyone looked. But then the conversation drifted. He opened up a little, talking about his dreams outside of teaching, places he wanted to visit, things he wanted to achieve. I hung on every word, feeling like he was letting me into a part of his life that most students never got to see. It made everything feel more personal, more real. Without thinking, I said something I never planned to say out loud. I told him how much he had changed my life without even knowing it, how his kindness had meant more than he could possibly understand. For a second, he looked genuinely touched. Emboldened by the look in his eyes, I pushed further, my voice trembling, my hands cold. I told him he was the best part of my days, that sometimes it felt like he was the only reason I smiled at school. The words hung in the air between us, heavy and undeniable. I could see the change in his face almost immediately. His smile faltered, his posture stiffened slightly. I wanted to take the words back, wished desperately that I had stayed silent. But it was too late. I had crossed a line I could never uncross. He cleared his throat, his voice careful, measured. He thanked me for my honesty, said he was glad he could make a difference in my life. But then he told me something that made my stomach drop. He mentioned he was engaged, that he was getting married in a few months, and that he had always seen me as someone he needed to protect, like a younger sister. I felt my face burn with embarrassment and confusion. I mumbled something about needing to leave and backed away, barely hearing whatever else he said. My mind raced with 1,000 emotions: shame, regret, heartbreak. I had built up so many fantasies in my head, convinced myself that maybe there was something special between us, only to crash painfully back to reality. Walking away that day felt heavier than anything I had ever experienced. It wasn't just the rejection that hurt. It was realizing that I had betrayed myself by creating a world that didn't exist. All the smiles, all the small moments, they had been nothing more than kindness from someone who cared in the right way, while I had twisted them into something they were never meant to be. April 28th, 8:15 a.m., Fahad Ali Baloch. The days after that conversation were some of the hardest I'd ever faced. Every time I walked into PE class, it felt like there was a wall between us. Mr. Taylor was still polite, still professional, but the easy smiles were gone. The warmth I had depended on was replaced with careful distance. I understood it, even respected it, but it didn't make it hurt any less. I tried to act normal, pretending like everything was fine, but inside I was battling feelings of humiliation and heartbreak. I hated myself for misreading everything so badly. What had felt so real to me had been one-sided, a fantasy built on kindness mistaken for something deeper. The guilt weighed on me, knowing I had put him in an uncomfortable position, knowing that I had crossed a line without even realizing it until it was too late. Over time, I stopped lingering after class. I stopped looking for small moments of connection. I focused on blending in, becoming invisible again, the way I had been before all of it started. It was the only way I knew to protect myself and to protect him from any rumors or misunderstandings that could destroy his life. My emotions didn't vanish overnight, but the shame forced me to bury them deep, where no one could see. Months passed, and eventually the school year ended. I didn't say goodbye to Mr. Taylor. I didn't try to have one last conversation. I just left quietly, carrying the weight of everything unsaid with me. Part of me still wanted to believe he knew how much he had meant to me, not in the wrong way, but simply as someone who had pulled me out of loneliness when I needed it most. Even if the feelings had gotten tangled and messy, the gratitude remained pure. Looking back now, I realize how easy it is to confuse admiration, gratitude, and emotional dependence with something more dangerous. I was young, vulnerable, and desperate for connection, and I saw what I wanted to see instead of accepting what was real. It wasn't love, not truly. It was the longing to be noticed, to be special to someone who had shown me kindness when I needed it most. The experience taught me painful but necessary lessons about boundaries, about emotional maturity, about the difference between fantasy and reality. It made me stronger, even though it left scars I carried quietly for a long time. It also taught me that betrayal doesn't always come from someone else hurting you. Sometimes, it's the betrayal of your own heart leading you down a path built on illusions. I never saw Mr. Taylor again after I left that school. Sometimes I wonder if he remembers me at all. I hope he doesn't remember the awkwardness, the hurt. I hope he remembers me as just another student he tried to help, nothing more, nothing complicated. As for me, I'll always remember him. Not as the man I thought I loved, but as the man who unknowingly taught me the hardest lessons about myself.